Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Common Ground.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, we do. Thank you for joining us. That just voice and face that you just heard is
Sheldon Bonner II with Urban Houston Network. Please feel free to reach out to us at info@urbanhoustonnetwork.com. We're excited about all the support that we've been getting from the community. Thank you so much, especially during this pandemic. All the support, the outpour, people staying connected. Also, if you have a business, you want to get your business out there and make it visible, Urban Houston Network is definitely your connect. So we're connected with the community. We want to connect with you. Again, that's info@urbanhoustonnetwork.com.
And don't forget also that we are on Roku. And you can just go to search, punch in UHN, it'll come up, and you punch it again, you will connect with us. And you will see mostly all Black entertainers doing their thing for you.
Those of you who have various videos, please reach out to us. We have Bernard James. He's doing a lot of, we have a lot of stuff going on. So we have video shows. Yes, he's our president. And we're excited about 2021 and just co-laboring with you guys.
And the show, as I stated before, is called Common Ground. And we look forward to having Common Ground every week on UHN. So tune in, go to Roku, and you will see us. And also on Facebook as well. You'll see us there too. And Sheldon, what I really want to bring up for our show today is about the outcome of District B.
Wow.
Yeah.
Finally.
We waited a long time, a whole year. My girl didn't get there.
She ran an awesome race.
She ran an awesome race.
Cynthia Bailey, we at Urban Houston Network want to congratulate you and your team for an incredible race. We thank you for standing tall. Urban Houston Network definitely was standing with you. And the winner of the District B was Tarsha Jackson.
Go ahead, Tarsha.
Tarsha Jackson.
We congratulate Tarsha as well as running a very good race. Awesome. And the community that was behind her kept her name out there, and the vote as well. I kind of felt like our guys didn't go back and vote the way they should have in our community, because we tend to forget that, everything gonna work out because it did pretty good on the first round. But you have to continue to go, and I'm happy that Tasha, you won. I'm happy for you. And we are at UHN are here for you if you should need us as well. In all the parts of our community, District B is a large district. And so you're going to be really, really busy, I know. Do good for the ones that voted for you, as well as do good for the ones that didn't vote for you.
Tarsha's already appointed her chief of staff and a lot of her staff members as well.
Well, that's good. Wonderful.
So we're definitely going to, even as she used to do, we would hold all of our elected officials accountable. So if we do nothing less now that she's an elected official as well, to hold her accountable as well.
Exactly.
And it's just great.
You should not ever vote for anyone or like anyone that lies so much.
I haven't seen anything like this.
The president lied. He lies a lot. And anytime a person that lies continuously and get caught in their lies, you shouldn't trust that person. And you shouldn't trust the people that's working with them or working for him or her, because it's not in the good of the people, especially in a democracy as we have.
Right.
And I couldn't stand for anyone that every time I turn around, you lying all the time, and I'm catching you in your lies. And I'm study catching you in lies, and I'm forgiving you, and I'm still backing you. And I don't know about you. What you think about it?
Oh, this has been an eye opener. This whole ordeal with Trump and those who support him has just been an eye opener. You know, this thing has allowed us to see, you know, the hatred and the animosity that people have in their hearts and their spirit. And there's like a strong delusion on a lot of his supporters where they could hear a lie and still embrace it. It was kind of like Jim Jones or something. It was like, wow. But I think it was more of a test for us, because we had to learn how to just walk in love and walk in truth. Even when lies were being embraced, we just chose not to listen to the lies, and we voted, and the truth prevailed. You know, it didn't feel good, didn't look good, uh, but the truth of God will always prevail, and that's what I learned through it all, is that I don't have to stoop down to other people's level and be negative and hate other people. Just because you hate me doesn't mean I have to hate you. But I can vote, and I can show you better than I can tell you. You know, I'm gonna walk in truth.
But that's another situation. That's
another story. Don't get me started on that. Well, you can hit a nerve.
I'm talking to the young people. Y'all need to get involved.
Yeah.
Really, you do. You need to get involved like you've been involved. Not so much about protesting and putting fires in the buildings and taking out their goods and everything and the access that these businesses have. That's not really doing anything but making another enemy. What we need to do is vote. You vote, you have authority. You have that right. You have the authority to put that booger in. You have authority to put that booger out. Take them out. And if they're not doing according to what you think they should be doing in your community, you rally together and you vote. We might not have the money like we would like to have the money to back a candidate, but the money doesn't bring the candidate into office. It's the voters. And if you vote, care how much money he has or she has, it will not count. They just lost some money trying to get in office if you go and vote. And that's the issue. That's the biggest issue.
We were taking people and everything, trying to get people to vote, and they still, a lot of times, people still didn't want to go vote.
No, they don't. It's sad, especially by Black people, because really, when the civil rights was really about voting, it had nothing to do about integration. We had our own hotels, we had our own businesses, we had everything. We had all that we needed in the Black community. We had our stores, we had our, all the places that you needed to shop and get your clothes. We had all of those, the pharmacies. We had everything that we needed to stay
self-sustained.
Yes. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done what they did in Oklahoma. Then that community, they had their own resources, and they weren't interested in integration. They turned this thing around. The government, the people in the government, turned it around to make as if it was integration. It was about the vote, baby. I was there. I was there. It was about the vote. It was about being able to put people in office that would do right, not only by the whites, but also by the Blacks.
Yes.
And that's why we wanted to vote. Martin Luther King didn't die just for integration. He died for voting. Those people that you see right now that are in Congress and on the Senate, they fought to vote. And you can ask any one of them that they are still living what they were fighting for. They were fighting for voting. And when I say fighting, I'm not talking about picking up a gun, picking up a stick, and picking up a rock, whatever you call it, to cause confusion. They were not causing confusion. They were letting the country and the government know that we were done wrong. We had a freedom, and if they could vote, we ought to be able to vote too. And I'm not ashamed to be Black. I want you to know that. I'm not ashamed to be Black. And if I'm, Felton is not ashamed to be Black either. And he got a little light skin up there.
But, no, I'm Black. I'm extra Black. Don't be.
We are not ashamed, as the song used to go by James Brown. I'm Black and I'm proud.
Yes, Lord.
I'm Black and I'm proud, and I stay continuously Black and proud of what we have accomplished by the help of God. And I'm not going to take God out of this thing.
We can't.
He has brought us a very long ways. What about us changing our community? So why wouldn't you want to improve your own community?
Right.
Why would you want to leave out of your community? And that's the worst thing to do, is to divide ourselves. And that's what we have, division. And division is bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
What you think
we've been duped into being, instead of being a people African Americans, we should be a people that invest in ourselves and in our communities. We're consumers. And so with the consumer mindset, we want to consume that house. We want to look a certain way instead of be a certain way. But when we as a people become more focused on being who God has called us to be, we are the light of the world. We are, yes, we are. And when we become more focused on that, then our agenda as a Black community is, hey, we got to reestablish ourselves financially or economically. That means we have to start our own banks. We don't have to go to somebody else. The codes are there of how to start banks, financial entities.
But you know what? We don't trust each other.
We have trust
I can't
issues.
trust you with my money.
Right.
We think about ourselves before we think about the group or the whole. And young men and young women today are very skeptical of trust.
We have the young, especially the younger generation. They have issues, trust issues with the government, and rightly so, because you can see now through social media we're more abreast of a lot of stuff that's going on. So they don't trust their family. A lot of them have been abandoned by their own family because a lot of their parents and stuff on drugs or whatever the case may be. So you have this just tons of stuff that are on this new generation that adds to their trust issues. You know, a lot of things haven't been passed down to them like they should be. We, especially as a black male, we were taught certain things. We were raised. We didn't just grow up on our own. So a lot of gentleman qualities, man qualities haven't been truly passed down to the next generation because of a whole bunch of stuff, incarceration, all sorts of combined issues.
And then we have to look at the fact that we've had people in office, people in high places have passed laws to put Black men in jail, to take to wipe the Black man out of our nation, United States, as a leader. And too many Black men are in jail. And those laws were made there, are put in place to bring you down and put you in jail. Jail is supposed to be a place of
rehabilitation.
Thank you. It's supposed to be a rehabilitation. And once you have served your time, you ought to be forgiven.
Because you're rehabilitated. Now you can transition back into society, the rehabilitated person. But that is not the case, especially here in Texas, because even here in Texas, TDCJ, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, used to be called the Texas Department of Corrections. They changed that name because their focus changed. They're not trying to correct anything. They're trying to get programs that really undermine the African American.
That's true. I believe that too. I've seen it happen too many times that once you have paid your dues, that should be forgiven. As God said, we ought to forgive each other and let you have another chance, a second chance. Isn't it good God gave us a second chance?
Thank you, Father.
And He gave us a second chance. Why we can't give each other a second chance? Because we don't want to. Because we want to keep a certain hierarchy, and that is incorrect and not right. And they need to, and I'm talking about the government right here in Texas, the Republican government, that has set so many laws out that a white man can say, you can go out there and you just say, hey man, what you talking about? And he could shoot you, and he would just be
standing his ground.
Yeah, he's standing his ground. He's standing his ground because you just hollered at him and say, hey man, what you doing?
I feel threatened.
Yeah, I felt threatened, so I shot him. Yeah. And go freely on home. No consequences whatsoever. And I don't think that's correct, and I don't think it's right. And that law should be overturned. Period.
We've seen them go into the capitals of different buildings with weapons and everything, be all in face to face with the police and everything, with weapons drawn, cussing them out, spitting all in their face, and you don't feel threatened by that. But let somebody be running down the street or something else, you feel threatened. So you're going to chase them down and shoot them down.
Like they did this little black boy in the park because somebody called and said he had a gun. You're going to shoot that child down, 12 years old, you shoot him down, and you feel justified by doing that. And you have all these guys that are white. I don't know, I'm still gonna say it. Yeah, they are white, and they were standing in the front of these policemen in the front of this building, and they were spitting. They acted as if they were gonna pull their guns,
Yeah.
and the policemen stood up there just as calm,
Not a
cool,
problem.
and collected.
Not a problem. Don't feel threatened at all.
Not at all. But
with weapons and everything.
Had it been those 5 black men had done the same identical thing.
Without any weapons.
Without any weapons, and just came up there, they were threatened, and they ready to jump down on them and beat them up and shoot them and everything else like they did Floyd. This is uncalled for. It is wrong. Now, just to get up off that subject a little bit, let's talk about something else, because it's hard. It's hard for me to comprehend the wrong. I want to talk about our community as a whole in Houston, and what can we do as a people to keep our city and the surrounding areas of the city, the suburbs, and also the urban area, and ready to and willing to do what we have to do to bring our businesses and in our community, in the Black community. How can we bring that back? I know you mentioned banks for one thing, but if we decided to start a bank in our communities, would we really go put our money in there?
We have banks, in Third Ward that are African, American owned, and we see even with their data that's open records that we don't see a lot of Blacks and Black businesses investing in a Black bank. But before we even get to the bank part, I believe it's around 2016, we were advocating for various things here in Texas. And that's when we discovered that the city of Houston, which is one of the largest cities in the world,
didn't have a city plan.
They for the first time, they started discussing having one.
Really?
And so we'll Google that.
Yeah, please.
And so the point is, when you start studying these things, you see that those who sat down to, form these municipalities, they had a certain mindset in place. A lot of these things are strategic because those who originally sat down and put this together, they understood that if you put certain rules and restrictions in, it could hinder economy. But if you don't have those things in, it's free for all, capitalistic. We can build. But once you bring those restrictions in, various zonings and stuff like that in, then that can restrict your growth, if you will. And so we're still suffering because we don't have the zoning. We don't have zoning in Houston now. But these are issues that always open up these huge debates because nobody wants to even start having those discussions about that. Because
my point is
power.
My point is that in 2016 you found this out. In 60s, no,
we're gonna Google that and find it, make sure.
In 75, I know in 1975 that there was a city plans for Northwest Side. That was just out there in our community, where we call North Forest community.
So I'm not talking about, because we have a plan, we have the whole department, City Houston Planning Department. I'm not talking about that.
I'm talking about a general city plan. We didn't have one until around 2013 to 2016.
For the communities?
For the city.
Or the city.
For the city.
Now, when you say the city,
because normally a city has a city plan, which is a general
idea where the road's going to go.
All of that.
That's one thing. Where the roads are going to be, that's for sure. Where they're going to allow the housing to stand and the business to come
residential, commercial, all of that.
They don't have it now.
There were discussions about it. We're gonna Google it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna show you back. Take us.
I want you to bring that back with us. We're gonna bring that back. we're not gonna cut that out.
Okay.
We're just gonna bring it back to you.
Okay.
And let you
Follow up on it.
yeah, follow up on that.
Clarity with our facts.
Yeah, because I'm one way and Felton is another. So we'll find out about it and see where we stand on that city plan. But go ahead on and tell us what.
So I mean, I believe that if we're going to get to it, we got to get to the foundational issues, because you can have all these. We can sit back and do all these protests and economic issues and how they affect the Black community. But if you don't have certain things in place as a foundation, I say it all the time. You can't legislate righteousness. You can pass a lot of laws, but a lot of the stuff is the language is so ambiguous and convoluted that only whites interpret the law to how they want it to be interpreted. So if the laws are convoluted and everything, and you don't have anything solid says I have a right to this and I have a right to that, well, now you can apply it however you want. The courts, when you take it to court, the court will apply it however they want, because there's nothing in writing that says here's your acre and your mule or whatever. I'm just saying it as an illustration. So there's nothing in place. And so that means that if I have oil or whatever, I have my own resources. I can come in and invest and do whatever because I have certain things. You don't have any rights. I have money, I have resources, and you're trying to get some of the things that I have. So I established a capitalistic environment, but I'm just using you in the process to get more gain for myself. So everything I can start my own gas stations, I can have my own libraries, I can do all that stuff because I have the capital to do it. You don't. I can give you some capital, whatever. Even in that, I'm getting my money back. I'm lending, predatory lending or whatever. So the whole thing is slated against the Black community. The second we get to the laws, the foundation factors of how these laws, founding laws, have been in place for generations, and we undo that.
They have undone
They
it.
don't want to do that. Well, we still have zoning. If you bring up zoning issues right now, you'll be surprised how quick this thing gets tabled in the county, everywhere, because they don't want to discuss that, because that's dealing with big people's money. And it's saying that the small business and everybody else who really make up this city, we don't have no voice.
And I look at the fact. I'm thinking about what you're talking about too.
Well, like
out there in the North Forest, you all.
Yeah.
Out there in North Forest, where I decided to stay and not leave. In North Forest, every corner, everybody used to complain about. There's a church on every corner. There's a church on every corner in North Forest. On every corner, there's a service station. On every corner in North Forest, there is a service station.
So that's a zoning issue. That's
that
all those
should not
issues
be.
where that's too many.
They took over North Forest Independent School District, not because of the lack of educating our children or the lack of having educators to really educate. It was a propaganda, I'm like Trump and all them lies. There was propaganda that North Forest was not a good independent school district owned by Blacks, ran by Blacks. Now you got to run. You see what you're saying. It's ran by Blacks, and you're turning Blacks against Blacks. Is that wrong? What you should do is work to make it right. If it's wrong to you, work to make it right, not destroy it. But it was destroyed. That was a staple in that community.
So this same type, that same pattern has been followed. When you have, and I don't want to go into specific names of schools for a lot of different reasons.
I do it.
But here's my point. The point is they did this in the 70s that we know, in the 60s and 70s, where the M&M transfers and all that, they take your interest out of the community. So they divide your schools up, they bus your kids to different places. So now the parents don't have an interest in this school that's in their own neighborhood because their kids don't really go there. And their kids are going to other communities.
And they'll come in and
so
pick them up.
you divest your interest in your own community. And then, once the numbers and everything starts failing, they'll come back and rebuild that school in another name and put money into it. But they didn't put the money in it when it was the Black people there who had it. Exactly. So they divide you up. You go to certain neighborhoods, white neighborhoods. Everybody rallies around their schools. They have their PTA meetings. They have all this stuff. They're all in one spirit. But they divide your community up so that you're not on the same page. You're not going to get on the same page. They steal your school legacy. You have 40, 50, 80 years of school legacy,
Like-
and they come
like
in and
Cashmere-
change the name.
like
Exactly.
Cashmere Garden.
Change the name. There's no. So what happens
just
to
killing?
what happens to
Just
all
killing
of
all
your
of it.
so-called alumni and
Yeah.
that network of alumni that had been sewing back into that school? Now the school's not there. The name is gone. So where does that? What happens to that alumni? They become powerless in essence.
Yes.
So it's a ploy. It's a
it's a
deceptive
way
measure.
of bringing you back to nothing.
Dividing
That's
us up.
exactly
Mhm.
right. And bringing us back to
Mhm.
nothing and dividing us. And we got to start, you got to wake up, young people,
Mhm.
for real. Because I'm not gonna be here long. You know, I'm getting short. We are not going, the baby boomers are not gonna be here. The ones that were fighting in the 60s are not gonna be here. So what you gonna do? Fall in the crack? Why? You got to get together. I love the reason why the Black Lives Matter.
Hmm.
Not necessarily of the wrongdoing, but that it brings us together.
So that's another.
That's
That's,
the issue.
a perfect
That's the big
illustration. I
thing.
don't want to go into it too deep, but that's a perfect illustration of how people will take your platform and jack you for it.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, Black Lives Matter. You know, they're always trying to make it sound like it's something else.
Yeah.
But let's get what it's really about. It's about Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And
about
so
us.
if you're
with
gonna sit
each
back and
other.
try to make it into homosexuality,
And all this other
riots and all that, but okay, forget that. Do Black Lives Matter? So when you stick to that, when you're against Black Lives Matter, I don't care who you are. I got a lot of so-called friends and they're against Black Lives Matter. So that's basically
It's
saying that
against
my
your
life
own
don't matter to
kind.
you.
You against yourself.
We can't make this into riots and everything else because every nationality has done negative stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can't dismiss a platform about Black people mattering, that their lives matter, and say, well, they're rioting, they're raping. No, we done found out that there was other people involved in that too. So stop letting
They said
people
the same thing
jack
about Martin
you.
Luther King and his game.
Exactly. So we gotta stop
Stop
allowing
that mess.
people to jack us for our own dialogue and our own conversation. We have our own agenda. Now a lot of people say the black community doesn't have an agenda. Yes, we do. We do have an agenda.
We got a big agenda.
Yeah.
And
And
that's to try to stick together and build our communities back.
That's it, point blank. The
That's our
same thing that
biggest
everybody
agenda.
else is doing.
Stop leaving your communities. I'm speaking to the young people, sure enough, because you're going to be in a position after a while to make money. And you can go back to home. Go home to where your parents worked so hard for that piece of property in
To keep it.
in Fifth Ward. Go home and where your parents worked so hard to keep that piece of property in Scenic Wood and our Acres Home and City Gas, all those places in our North Forest area, and also in the West area. They all in the West, aren't you? They are fighting to keep the community. That's your business here at UATN, Felton. Is the keeper, is the community. He's our community guy. And if you want anything done, call Felton.
Reach out to us at info at urbanhoustonnetwork.com.
Right, and he will come if it's possible. He will be there. And we want to just say, in closing, we can be friends. We can be partners in raising our children the right way they ought to be raised. We can all love one another. And we're going to say goodbye to you right now. God loves you.
Common ground. The common ground is love.
And we